We are back in session, gentlemen, and Brent, you have the floor.
Okay. So the first item there underneath the Budget Committee is 8.1, discussion of the Lifeways bond issue. Commissioners, you'll remember back on July 8th of last year, we had resolution 25-095 bringing forward the issuance of bonds for Lifeways, and that resolution was amended by Commissioner Benzing to state that issue would be placed before the voters. At the time, our legal counsel, bond legal counsel, Eric McLaughlin, stated that we would need additional language to actually put that before the voters. Commissioner Collins and I had and Mr. Ringman had a conference call with Mr. McLaughlin last week, Tuesday, and he will be drafting a bond resolution language that we'll actually need to adopt to place that issue on the August ballot for this year. Our intent is to have that bond language at the February 10th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. As it stands right now, that bond language will be coming back, in essence, similar to the proposed language that we had before, authorizing the county to issue up to $15.5 million of bonds for the Lifeways mental health facility. Should we want to reduce that amount that we tell the voters we're going to issue for that, we can have, or make that amendment to that, or change to that resolution to bring it back. So I bring this forward at this time. I know Lifeways has had some discussion, some conversation. Do they truly want to build the full building right now, or look at a potentially a scaled back version of that? And so, again, as it stands right now, that language will be coming at the full $15.5 million, but if we want to reduce that, we could. And we could even be better to, if we're going to reduce it, to take action to do that, and so that we can have that written into that resolution and not have to amend it after the fact.
Commissioner, just to that, do we anticipate a formal request to change that, or would that be the plan then, to have a formal request from Lifeways to change that dollar amount?
I guess that's one thing we did not discuss at all in that conference call with Eric, but we can, if we decide to, we can change that amount that we would tell the voters that we would bond for on that issue. But right now, I said it will be written at $15.5 million.
I just made a note, I will get with John. He's been staying very well in tune with this, as well as Mary Beth and Cassie, but I'll find out if, I know there's been discussion about maybe phasing the project in 2 phases. The thought was that, maybe a lesser number is more palatable. So let me find out. I'll get that number.
Okay.
I'll get a number from them today that you can get to Eric, so that when the resolution comes to us on February 10th, it's got the correct number right in it, and then we don't have to amend it. So, is that acceptable?
Yeah, it does need to come from Lifeways
Oh,
as
I agree.
opposed to something that
Yep,
we decide.
I fully agree there.
But again, that resolution will reference the proper statutes that are needed to put that issue down before the voters, so.
Okay. Any further discussion on that item? All right, good.
Okay.
Let's move along.
I'm gonna hold off on the discussion of funding options for renovations of 25 Care Drive until our finance director gets back in here. He went to run off a couple of other documents, so
Yep.
I'll continue on here. In the communications, in the packet, there was a well-wide services community needs assessment survey notice, and there is a QR code there that'll take you to the, digital version of that, needs assessment. That needs assessment is done by the agency generally every 3 years as they prepare their 3-year plan of service for the area. If you want a paper copy of it, I can get you a paper copy. I may have one. Yeah. If you want a paper copy, I do have a paper copy that needs assessment. It's 69 total questions, and that needs assessment. So, but that can be done online, and the link for that is there, and again, the QR code is there, so that helps Wildlife Services plan the work that they're gonna be doing in Jackson, Hillsdale, and Lenawee counties over the next 3 years, as we then write that 3-year implementation plan with the providers that we work with.
When does that close?
I don't see that on there. so-
Yeah, I did not ask that either, Commissioner.
And the QR code does work.
I will have to get that to you. On that.
It would just be appreciated,
Yeah,
thank you.
so I will reach out to staff at Wildlife and get that date. On Friday, last week Friday, we had the Ohio, Michigan, Indiana Council of Governments meeting in Bryan, Ohio. At that meeting, there were 4 counties represented. Hillsdale County from Michigan, Quebec County from Indiana, and Williams and Defiance counties from Ohio. It was agreed that Williams County would be invoiced by USGS for the well water monitoring on wells in Williams County, Ohio, Defiance County, Ohio, Quebec County, Indiana, and LaGrange County, Indiana. And so they will be paying that, there will be no invoice due or sent to Hillsdale County because as of right now, the Michigan office of the USGS is still monitoring the wells that were installed in Amboy Township. I did ask for a representative from the Michigan office of the USGS to provide us an accounting of what's happened with those $500,000 of funds that Michigan DNR did provide to USGS for that work and that groundwater modeling project. But again, that's because we're not the ones who gave them the money. We'll see what we get for a reply from USGS. Our next meeting there was scheduled for April, I believe April 27th or May 3rd. About the week of the May 1st. In April, the USGS staff is going to be in Ohio and Indiana. And we're dealing with 2 US offices, the one that covers Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, and then the one in Michigan. The Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky staff will be up flushing wells there in northwest Ohio, and so some of the commissioners may go out and ride with them and do some site visits.
Disruption in the force?
Well, we're on the generator.
You,
Yeah,
This is what happened yesterday.
I had problems yesterday.
Yeah, thank
just
you.
turn them off. Emergency lights stay on. All right.
Might affect your YouTube.
And right, we are all on YouTube.
That's
Mr. Nichols' purpose, that we do have a power failure in the building currently, and so our YouTube feed is offline at the moment.
Thank you. All right, please continue, Brad.
There is we have a meeting Thursday night for the wastewater, or solid waste, get the right, material management planning committee. So that is Thursday at 6 o'clock here in this room. So, and I believe we've got an agenda posted for that in diligence.
Will be,
So that'll be Thursday. We're going back here now to item 8.2, discussion on funding options, renovations of 25 Chair Drive, and our finance director is here. Did you get some updated items printed? Yeah. And Commissioner, I believe, Mr. Dane has emailed out to everybody 8 scenarios that the budget committee had talked about last week Tuesday.
Can I say something first?
Yeah.
Commissioner Engel, you stopped by to go over something with me. That sheet that we put together is missing a formula link, so the numbers
Okay,
they're not what
okay.
we're talking about. I'm sorry, I know that's gonna mess up some of what you were thinking. Do you want me to include that in what I hand out here, or? Just so you're aware.
Is this with the change?
Yeah.
Right.
And just for information.
So this is showing a shortfall, if I'm reading it correctly.
Here,
If I have an extra, let's see here.
Can we take a break for about 5 minutes?
We just had a break.
I understand,
It's my fault. I apologize.
so that I can discuss tonight with the finance director.
I'm ready to proceed on with the budget committee has brought for scenarios.
And this, everything that Jerry just passed out was sent to us, correct?
There's a couple of differences in this,
Okay,
Commissioner.
okay.
Okay?
Well, I'm sure you'll address them.
I will, the key difference in all these scenarios is whenever we're looking at the repayment number on, should we issue bonds to take care of the renovations at 25 Care Drive, we were able to have a conference call yesterday morning with Andy Campbell, the bond
Yes.
financial advisor, and he provided us some speculative rates as to what we might be paying at an interest rate on different terms of bond length. And so what had been emailed out was a rough guess, guesstimate as to where we would be. The documents in front of you are based on those estimates that Andy provided us yesterday. And for those of you, the 30-year rate, should we look at issuing 30-year bonds, Andy said that those rates right now would be 4.25%. 20-year bonds would be 3.75%, and 10-year bonds would be 2.875%.
Run those again, please.
30 is 4.25. 20 is 3.75. In 10 years, 2.875.
Thank you.
All of the scenarios that we looked at when we talked about bonding, I will say we rounded off and used a $4 million figure to look at that bonding. Because if you have an estimate of $3.5 million, build in a 10%, at least 10% factor there for central overage, you're at another 350,000. So we just, for ease of calculation, we just looked at the 4 million. If we were to go down that road and we didn't need those funds to remodel that building, we could use those funds for other capital improvement projects that we have within the county as well, whether that be replacing the roof on the DHHS building that is in need of replacement, or also potentially using them for replacing the roof on the community center at the Lewis Emery Park, which is
Way overdue.
yes, way overdue. All of the scenarios, looking at county revenue coming in, we're comparing 26 and 27 in all of these scenarios. All of those scenarios looked at a 2% inflation factor, property tax value increase. We also looked at a $50 million of additional, of new construction in 2027, and what, a $10 million loss there?
15, I believe.
Okay. Which, looking back historically, the 50 million may be a little more than we've seen, the 15, but again, trying to look at some historical perspective there. All of the scenarios also include the negotiated pay raises that we'll see for the collective bargaining agreement at the Sheriff's Department. They also include 80 step increase that we currently have adopted in our personnel handbook that everybody will see, that is on the, not on the collective bargaining agreement. And we also projected if we had a 2% inflation rate, every one of these scenarios also includes a 2% adjustment to that wage schedule for 27. We looked at numerous different options, numerous different possibilities as to how we could fund the potential bonding and repayment of that $4 million to pay for the renovations at 25 Care Drive. If you will take a look at scenario 8 at the beginning. You'll notice that scenario 8, says go back to the drawing board and find a cheaper relocation option or a cheaper construction option. We do that because if you look at the bottom right-hand corner in that scenario, based on those basic assumptions of the increase in property tax value of 2%, the wage change schedules that were already committed to, not necessarily that same 2% increase in the wage schedule, but if we include that in there, there's a shortfall in 2027. And that does not account for any other inflationary increases of other expenses that the county would have. And we used a 8% increase on our health insurance rates for 27. By switching to the West Michigan Health Insurance Pool, we are guaranteed to, for 27, to have the average rate increase for all pool plans is what we will receive for our rate increase with West Michigan Health Insurance Pool. I'm looking at where they were at this last year. We budgeted that at 8% in these scenarios. And again, we had numerous discussions on, what can we cut, what can we look at, and so those numbers are there before you. There are two scenarios, scenario 2 and scenario 3. Where we looked at an override of the Headley rollback of the county general fund operating millage, which was approved, I believe, in 1976 at 5.75 mils, has now fallen back to 4.8, 0 mils, 4.8, and some odd mils, and that would require a vote of the public in Hillsdale County to override that Headley rollback and increase that general fund operating millage back to the 5.75 mils. Scenario 2 represents levying that full millage rate. Scenario 3, we would only levy 5.2 mils of that millage rate.
Scenario 3 is the 5.2, scenario 2 is the full amount.
You are, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you,
Yep.
thank you.
Scenario 1 does not increase the general fund operating millage, but would require a vote of the citizens of Hillsdale County to levy a separate tenth of a mil to fund the soldiers, sailors, and relief fund that we currently fund out of the general fund operating millage that we currently levy. And we currently fund that at just under a tenth of a mil annually. And so that would require a vote of the people. That would provide approximately $200,000 of tax revenue every year to offset some of the costs required for the bond payment at Lifeways. Scenario 4.
Brent, hold up a minute. Scenario 1,
Scenario 1 is on the revenue side,
yep,
okay?
yep,
It reflects the loss of revenue with Lifeways vacating the building, which is $130,000 loss of revenue,
correct.
okay? Scenario 1 would also reflect, should we put to the voters a decision to levy a tenth of a mil for veterans services to fund the Soldiers, Sailors Relief Fund, which would then free up that $200,000 that we're currently taking out of the general fund to fund that item.
My question is in expenses, you show the MSU contract at 173, but that's more money than what?
That is because it's not more money than that, because there's also other, in this scenario, I mean, and again, I'm not in favor of this scenario, but this scenario, we would eliminate the MSUE budget completely, which also includes the staff person at MSUE,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Uh,
That's where the 173,000 comes from.
That's
Commissioner.
what I was wondering.
And that's the difference from the 132 that we just
Right.
approved, which would be consistent. The staff person is a county employee.
Correct.
And
Mhm.
just to, I don't want to get off into the weeds, Commissioner, but was there, I mean, if that programming were to be eliminated, and it's not anything that I'm really open to discussion on, but has there been any thought given to the potential revenue that space can generate? Because we do have a loss of revenue from Lifeways if that space at MSUE, and whether the health department were to take that, the dental clinic, which ostensibly is a separate business, has there been any?
No, Commissioner, because for our lease agreement with them, with the health department, they would then obtain that space.
Okay.
That space is granted to the county through that lease agreement for the housing of MSU Extension.
Mhm.
And if MSU Extension is non-existent, then that's up to the health department to determine what to do with that space, not the county.
Thank you, you answered my question.
And again, I will say that whenever we look at any of these reductions in expenses, because the Lifeways revenue funds direct individuals in the maintenance department, those wages that are funded in the maintenance department are also projected as an elimination in each of those scenarios where we project elimination. You will also see that one of the items eliminated on every one of those pages where we project eliminating expenditures is Board of Commissioner health insurance. If we're gonna project or discuss eliminating anything else, the budget committee felt that the first place to start was what's directly affected by the revenue that we receive, and also what it impacts the commissioners themselves.
Okay. Okay. The generator didn't start.
So there's no recording.
No recording at this, okay, very good, thank you. All right.
And again, there are numerous scenarios there. I will say as the budget committee, I'm not in favor of anything from scenario 1 to scenario 7.
Well, you answered my question, and I was gonna ask which ones.
Scenario 8,
So I do want to thank the budget committee though, because you came up with 7 scenarios that did make it possible to pay for 25 Care Drive, when previously we've always heard that it's not possible. It certainly is possible, and I appreciate the 7 scenarios.
and I would say 4 of those scenarios would require approval of the voters of Hillsdale County to fund. One would be funding a 1/10 of a mil for veteran services. One would be funding, I believe, 1/1300 of a mil for bonding purposes. And that was scenario 4. And that would be for 30 years. 2 of them would involve overriding the Headley rollback for our general fund operating millage. And I will say that there is talk in the community that we need to do something with the jail. We need to either increase the size, modernize the jail. But if we ever go down the road of increasing the capacity of the jail, whether that be through an addition to the jail or a new jail, we will also have to have additional general fund operating funds to fund the operation and the staffing and the inmate health insurance of an increased jail capacity. And the only way to do that is going to be through an override of the general fund operating millage and roll that back to the 5.75 mil. The other scenarios that are there strictly deal with cuts and reductions to different departments throughout the county to pay for the bonding of, like I said, $4 million to cover the cost of that over the next 30 years.
Go ahead, Dirk.
Commissioner Leininger touched on this, but I think it's worth kind of elaborating on. These scenarios all hold a lot of the budget constant. It's basically looking at about 4 different lines in a giant budget. And just keep in mind that we had, hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s of requests in 26's budget that we didn't approve. And there's some big items that, they're pretty variable year to year that we're just assuming in this scenario, in all of these scenarios, that they're gonna be the same next year as this year. And then another thing to point out, kind of everything is looked at annualized over that 30 years. But for example, the Lifeways revenue, you might not lose it all in '27, but once they were completely out of that building, you would lose it, you know, going forward. So just things like that, the nuance of it, right? So.
The other thing that we didn't look at is also if the renovations at 25 Care Drive do also necessitate that Michigan Works Southeast vacate their portion of the building for part of that renovation time. This doesn't reflect potential loss in revenue there either. Or potential reduction in their rent while that renovation is going on because of the inconvenience that they are experiencing because of that.
At least at this point in time, that there has been no indication of that, because Randy's been in communication with them, and the discussion has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but they're gonna try and work on, you know, this side of the building, and, you know, so that Michigan Works will be least impacted as much as possible, so.
And talking with Andy yesterday, should we decide to go forward with the bonding, depending on the, whether that be through voter approval, he's figured it would, best case scenario would be about 3.5 to 4 months before we would receive funds from a bond issuance. And then would be required to spend those funds within 3 years after receiving them. And a percentage would have to be spent within, I believe 85% would have to be spent within 2 years of receiving those bond funds.
Dirk,
Just a minute, if I may. We had a Zoom meeting with the architect Friday, and I think Randy and Doug and I disagree on, you know, they said this whole project at 25 Care Drive is about an 8-9 month project. We're looking more at about 12, 13 months to give us plenty of room, because just because the renovations are done, you've still got probably a month of getting everything moved in and set up, and we all know change orders are inevitable. You know, as far as using the monies, I appreciate the dates and the timelines, but,
Well,
you
because
know,
some of that renovation can't start until Lifeways vacates the building.
and so with that said, if you take October of '28 and you back up that 13 months, they need to be out of there pretty much the 1st of September of '27, right?
Well, we had said that, the 8 to 9 months, give them, expand that a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, because of potential delays. So you figure 10 or 11 months for the renovation, figure, the recommendation from the comment from the architect was maybe up to 2 months for moving, which we don't know because of furniture and just the logistics of moving. So we're at, you know, a 13-month window just in that. Add your 6-month window of notice, which brings us to about February of '27 to apply the notice to Lifeways. And you indicated that was probably reasonable.
Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, you know, but that's the basic timeline.
That's what,
And so that being said, the spending of the funds would happen during that window.
but then,
But
you know, facilities, we've actually had 2 meetings in the last 4 or 5 days. But just to interject, what we've been told, or,
We're getting into my report, but that's okay.
well,
It works together.
yeah, it does. Brad, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna ask Derek, do you recall what the total of those 22 or 23 reclassification requests we had were?
It was right around 100,000, I feel like.
Okay.
Oh, and
And, you know, just as part of this, I mean, just as part of this discussion, that, you know, as we are moving forward, just what that implies collectively in regards to any future requests for reclassification, they just simply are not possible.
Well, and this budget is compounded by the fact that we granted two special circumstances to two positions in the last budget.
It's the battery
Low
over here.
power, yeah,
Oh,
battery back,
yeah.
UPS.
Gonna blow up here.
Okay, we'll put up with that.
And again, the key thing is looking at scenario 8,
They will kill me.
which does not include any inflationary increases on anything other than the wage schedule and health insurance and property tax revenue increase. We've got $114,000 shortfall. Add to that, the comment that Mr. North made in the January state revenue estimating conference, put the general fund of the state of Michigan revenue at $800 million below prior year estimate. So that's going to be cut from the state budget. One of the things that they could cut is revenue sharing to the counties. The marijuana revenue estimate, if you listen to that state revenue estimating conference and some other presentations by the House Fiscal Agency, that is continuing to fall.
Comments? Go ahead, Kevin.
Has there been any talk or anything about the furnishings, buying them with the new, the expanded office space and, has there been any discussion on what they're gonna want for chairs and tables and file cabinets and, cause that's not gonna be a small thing.
Is that part of the $3.5 million or not?
Not at this point.
We haven't had any discussion on this in quite a while, but I do know there's been discussion of moving, and this is several months ago, but we'd move the judge's bench, because that can be taken apart and that can be moved, okay? So that whole setup as far as the witness stand,
Yep.
that whole assembly can go. It can be taken apart, because it was put in there piece by piece. I mean, it was assembled in there. And I know at one point in time, and it's nothing recent, but Randy indicated that some of those desks that are currently in there are not that old and they're in relatively good condition. The same goes for the chairs. So quite frankly, I see no reason to buy them new.
Okay.
You
No,
know,
I just
we
wondered.
use as much of what we have as we can.
And that was brought up when we had our phone call as well. The question from the architect was, what's the intent on the furniture? Are you gonna buy new? Because that would impact the timeline and the cost. you know, of the project. And truth be told, we don't know the answer to that question yet. But what we do know is that they're currently using desks, they're currently using chairs, and it could be that that all gets moved. Now we need to get into the realm of the discussion with the judges to see, you know, some of the answers to those questions. So we don't know that yet. It is something that is in our mind and in our conversation, but to answer your question, right now, those numbers are not included.
I mean, along with that, part of the discussion we've had both Friday and yesterday was that as long as you're doing new wiring and everything, you should have a generator. And potentially that's $200,000 on the high side, based on the discussion we had the last couple of days. There was some questions about outdoor lighting. I think yesterday we kind of come up with the fact that by the time it's dark, generally speaking, court is closed. And there is adequate, or Randy has upgraded some of those lights out there in recent years, so there's probably adequate lighting for now. The other thing that we talked yesterday with David was cameras. And the recording system, as far as for the courtroom, could be moved. You know, that would be moved. But along with that, there was discussion of the acoustics in a new courtroom, because if you're gonna have drywall walls,
Sound bounces.
yeah, you're gonna have some sort of sound buffering panels on the wall or the ceiling, but those, David indicated those are not terribly expensive, but, you know, like I said, change orders, and there are gonna be added costs. The generator is one that we hadn't previously talked about. But it does make sense. You know, especially with the fact that pretty much everything the court does these days is computerized, and it's getting more and more computerized. So,
And, you know, to that,
Yep.
two things. One would be to prep it, but not install a generator,
that was also
which
discussed.
would significantly reduce. But then the other, and it's really hard to say this in the midst of a power outage, but the uprate with the BPU is incredibly good. It is a very, very rare scenario where they're down for any length of time.
I don't know, what I was thinking is Randy said we have had issues on Care Drive with the power out there, and I don't know, you know, other than what he told Doug and I.
Yeah, so BPU is very good. They tend to, if there is an issue, it resolves within a very short period of time. That's the advantage that we have with having our own electric utility.
I agree.
When you have consumers, and it's county and statewide, and there are hundreds of thousands of transformers or other issues to deal with, then the timeline changes. But to say that there isn't a concern about power outages, we're living it right now. And as a lifetime practically resident of the city of Hillsdale, there are blinks that do happen, but typically they're blinks. Typically it's very short term. Yesterday, when this building lost power, it was up Main Street, slightly across Bacon and into downtown, and it was due to a fuse that had blown. And then naturally, when a fuse blows, it loads power in other aspects, which causes a cascading effect that needs to be dealt with. You know, in the super cold, we're in a condition right now when power's usage is high. People are using all their heaters, they're using everything that they can. And so it's stressed, but the advantage is that we do have our own utility, which the trucks are on it, and I'd be surprised if we don't get power real quick, so.
And to your point, Brad, we did discuss, as long as we wire everything, you know, to the panel and to the hookup and so on, so that you could potentially do the generator at a later date, you know.
Yeah.
It's a single point of entry on the electricity, which makes it very doable. It's not, you know, if we start isolating, the conversation was, if we start isolating certain zones, that's when the cost really goes. But if we have a single point of entry and the building's wired, if you have the box, you know, you plug it in and turn it on and you're back in business. So.
And along with that, you know, there was the discussion of whether you do just the top floor of district court or the whole building. And from the standpoint that none of us know whether that building will be used for court services in its entirety down the road, it was our thought that we set it up that the generator would feed the whole building. So.
And I would encourage that thought, because at some point, I think that would be the case.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that are possible, so, so the budget committee has provided us with these scenarios. I know that anything that needs to go on to the August ballot would have to be taken care of by May, right?
I believe that's right, yeah.
They'd probably have to be acted on in April so that it could get worded correctly and,
By May 12th
Yeah.
would be the deadline.
yeah, so I would say if this board's gonna do anything that's gotta go in front of the voters, it's gotta be handled in April.
Probably first meeting in April.
Right, well, yeah, and then sent to the attorney and then finalized the second meeting, correct. So, unless the budget committee's got other thoughts, I think we all need to study this some more and bring it up again at the next meeting. Doug, you have a comment?
Yes, I do. And the comment is that while we have 7 scenarios that are functional as far as moving forward with the project at 25 Care Drive, these aren't the only scenarios that can occur. There can be a hybrid that is put
We
together.
could pull something from one scenario and mix
Yeah.
it with the other.
And so I appreciate the discussion, because that is something that still could be in front of us.
That is correct, Commissioner. Yeah,
So, what I'm hearing you say is that any one of us could bring back a blended scenario at the next meeting for discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the generator's running, by the way.
I will state that, you know, there were some other items that we looked at, one of those being our contribution to the child care fund. The problem with that is the blue sky behind it.
The problem what?
The blue sky behind it.
Right.
You know, one year we may be able to reduce that contribution by X dollars, but the next year after that, we have to, our contribution back to the child care fund would be an additional of X times 3 or 4, which we have seen that happen in the past. And so, you know, looking at every one of these scenarios is something that is currently a fixed dollar amount, that to make up that fixed dollar amount cost to pay for a bond.
With that said, Derek, child care fund, we've rolled, the last last couple of years, there's been some money rolled back because it was unused, correct?
We have been able to grow their fund balance a little bit, but maybe 2 years ago, we had depleted it almost to zero. That was one of the, areas where we kind of messed up in our audit a little bit. So, I'm never gonna be in favor of using all that fund balance, because they could have just one instance that pops up, and if we're not setting aside the money there, that has to come from our general fund. But we have been able to grow it a little bit here.
That speaks to the blue sky that Brent mentioned. So, okay, thank you.
And again, the recommendation of the budget committee would be scenario 8. Find something cheaper.
And just to comment on that, as we move forward with ending up at 25 Care Drive, the cost effectiveness and the saving of money is one of the reasons we ended up at 25 Care Drive. If you recall, Commissioner, we had proposals from the NCSC on renovating the courthouse that was in excess of $20 million. So by, just by simple math, 4 million, if it turns out to be 4 million, is not 20 million. And so we've always been on the path to be most cost effective.
So, the budget committee's in favor of scenario 8, if I'm hearing you correctly. And on scenario 8 there, you mentioned,
We're still projecting $114,000 shortfall at that,
right,
in that scenario. So there would have to be some other decisions made in 27
right,
budgeting year.
does anybody know what the current price is on Midtown, and is that a possibility?
The last I knew, it was listed for over $1 million.
And the last I knew, the owner was not interested.
I mean,
Commissioner, what?
go ahead.
Do we have any current obligations that will be dropping off, as far as payments that might contribute to, because I'm not seeing anything
No,
here.
we don't. Not in no. We have no current payment obligations that would be dropping off that would free up any additional funding.
In the next 10 years, or?
In 27, in the next couple of years. And the only payment obligation that would be dropping off, we would still have to have a commitment from whoever the county treasurer is to continue to fund that, because the current payment for the bond on this building was agreed to by the county treasurer to be funded from monies from the delinquent tax revolving fund. And again, that was for this transfer specific to the general fund for the payment of the bond on this building. That would still have to be, and I believe that goes through 28 or 29?
28 is the last payment.
28, and so, but that's only a $70,000, $75,000 payment on an annual basis, and again, that would still be subject to,
Delinquent tax revolving fund.
and the county treasurer, and on February 25th, there's a case before the U.S. Supreme Court that may affect that drastically anyways.
Do we have any other payments? There's an HVAC payment, or no?
We have no other, the only other payment we have is the payment to, over the next 9 years now, back to the building inspection fund for the $2 million that we borrowed, or $1.8 million that we borrowed for the courthouse exterior renovation work. that's $180,000. A little bit more a year, the next 9 years.
And that's at what rate?
0.25.
Yeah, I believe you're right. That's at a rate that you don't refinance and pay off.
Anything further? I think the assignment, if you will, is to study the scenarios. Like Doug indicated, move a thing around or two and make a hybrid as you indicated. And next meeting, we make a decision. And we don't, we are on a time clock. And if scenario 8 is, it doesn't look like it's really the best option because it's a,
There's still costs that have to come from the budget somewhere underneath scenario 8.
Right,
And there's still no funding there for a renovation at 25 Care Drive.
right. All right,
Last meeting, I was asked about a potential report from ADP regarding commissioners per diems. I've talked to Derek. The last I knew, he was not able to get that report to print with the memos and comments that commissioners add to that. He was supposed to have a conference call with them, and I'm not sure he's had that yet. Which, again, to me comes back, is another reason to make sure we put those in on the date that they happen, so that we're not putting in 4 or 5 per diems on one day, when our bylaw says we only get paid 1 per diem on a day. So the report that can be produced right now is gonna show, if you don't put everything in until the end of a month, and you put it all in on one day of that month, that even though you may put a comment that it's for multiple meetings over that month, you just, because you get paid no more than 2 per diems in a day.
I don't recall that. Is it in our board rules?
what's that?
1 per diem per day? Or 2 per
2
diem?
per diem, it is in the board rules, Commissioner.
What if you have 3 or 4 meetings?
I think that the board rule speaks for itself.
Well,
To that.
what the board rules do say is, and this is where it's $35 for a half day, 70 for a whole day. So you're either doing the 2 meetings that are 35 each, or you're doing the whole day at 70. Is that correct?
That's how I.
That's always been my understanding.
Right. So, I mean, the question of 2 meetings is answered in you just do the 70 and then indicate in the notes that you had 2 meetings that day.
And the only thing I would add to that though is mileage is different than per diem, so that
Correct.
if you were to have a meeting in one location, and a good example is those that serve on the health department board, well-wise, other things that are out of the county community action agency, our commissioner appointment to that body, that potentially there you could have mileage to more than one destination.
Correct.
For the day, but you can have a total of 1 full day, which is either 2 halves or one whole.
Right, right. I think where the line gets drawn as far as if you had 3 meetings, you're still only
70.
eligible for the 70.
70, yeah.
So,
I did not know that. One day I have 3 meetings. I have Ann Arbor Planning Commission and then a Zoom meeting right after.
technically, the way the rules are,
Okay.
it'd be the
No, that's
70.
fine.
Yeah,
I'm glad to know
right. Well, that's why we have these discussions.
it. Yeah.
And then the other comment, I believe everybody received an email from Mr. Wheeler in the equalization office that he has filled his open position there, so I wanna thank Mr. Wheeler, because he stepped out for that email, so. And that is all that I have at this time.
And, you know, the discussion we just had as far as the, you know, 2 meetings, 1 meeting, whatever, that same discussion came up at Life Place. So, you know, if you got 2 meetings, you put down for 1.
But if you have mileage for the third meeting, you could put down the mileage for that
Correct.
meeting.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
good to know.
Okay. All right.
Taking you probably have no payment.
So
Put it in notice.
if you haven't already, put a placeholder for that coming back at the next meeting as far as the discussion on the funding options. Okay, thank you. Doug?
So my first item is one that was taken off the agenda, and that is an IT contract with the 911, and that will be hopefully brought back at our next meeting. David did not get a chance to get that done. And so I wanted to let you know, because it did show up on our agenda initially, and then it was taken off.
Has that person been hired, or is that posting out there, or?
So my understanding it has not happened yet.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. At the road meeting, many items were discussed. The fuel pumps are operational, canopy is installed, and when the drivers fuel, they have a computer record keeping, which makes it much easier and efficient for those drivers. Salt delivery is somewhat restricted even in the state. Our Hillsdale County Road Commission has been able to build the needed supply, but it has been limited across the state for deliveries, and that is somewhat of a concern. However, Hillsdale County has built their needed supply. They reported that with all the snow and the wind, the road drifting is a big challenge. They do have graders coming out as needed. The crews are all busy with no major equipment breakdowns. In your packet, you'll see that there's an assistant manager's report that talks about some of the items that would be of interest in your township, so please do look at that assistant manager's report. Also, the assistant manager is creating maps with load rating on bridges that will be sent to schools, fire departments, 911 and others. Hopefully the Board of Commissioners will receive this map as well. The concern is certain bridges may need to be closed due to overweight usage on those weight restricted bridges. So the map will define what those bridges are and what those restrictions are, in particular with certain farm equipment, fire trucks, school buses. This was a topic of discussion at the last meeting. The March 26th meeting date has been changed to March 27, and the rules, policies for driveways within the road right-of-way has been updated. The Road Commission does provide driveway permits, for example, upcoming solar projects and road use agreements for those projects, and that policy has been updated. Michigan Works Southeast Consortium did not meet last week. There were no action items, so there was no need to drive to Ann Arbor on that particular day. Executive Director's report is in our packet. If you do have any questions, I can try and answer those questions. Currently, there are 110 part-time and full-time jobs posted at the Hillsdale Michigan Works Service Center. There will be open interviews with marshals, which is coming to town in the Kroger Plaza. Interviews will be held on January 28, 29, and 30 from 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon at the Hillsdale Service Center, 21 Care Drive. The facilities department did have a Zoom discussion with the architect, who was the drawings architect, as well as the electrical engineer. Randy, Mark, Doug all participated in that meeting. Key points discussed were floor plans and site plans. Electrical engineer had certain questions that we addressed, some of which we talked about today, and discussed the project timeline, including the 6-month notice to Lifeways. That completes my update for this moment. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
There was, and I think you were copied, as a matter of fact, I know you were copied on it because I'm looking at it. The park had asked for their monies as one payment. And you're also copied on an email that I sent to Derek asking what had been past practice. And past practice has been quarterly. The treasurer's office would like something, if we're gonna change that, or if we're gonna continue quarterly, but the treasurer's office would like something from us to designate those payments, whether it be one full payment or quarterly. So I guess also I defer to the budget committee for their input on, should that all be paid in one payment or quarterly? Quarterly is what we've done according to Derek.
Quarterly is what we've always done. Many of those transfers out that we do, well, the MSU, even our payments to Lifeways are on a quarterly basis.
Right.
But some of those transfers out, which is where that, in the same budget account where the payment to the park is, are on an annual basis, and they're done at the end of the year, or even in January of the next year, reconciled back to the prior year's
Right.
accounting. So,
Mr. Chair, it's been paid.
Well, we're not recorded, so you can stay where you're at. Go ahead.
It's been paid,
the full
the
amount,
full amount. That's what I
Oh.
was to understand happened. was to
Okay.
happen. But we didn't have anything,
So
like
it
you
is,
said in writing to do so,
okay.
well,
just word.
I guess that,
we need to make a clarification as to how that will be treated
I
in
know.
the future, I guess, because,
I guess I would be willing to make a motion that we make those payments on a quarterly basis going forward.
support.
And that would be followed up with a resolution at our next meeting.
so we've got a motion and support that those will be made quarterly going forward, and follow that up with a resolution and consent so that it's on the record that it'll be quarterly.
This is for parks, right?
Yes.
So the comment I would have would be that the parks requested the full amount so that they are able to work through some of their projects in a more timely fashion, rather than being, so dollar handicapped as they go through the year. So having the money up front gives them a better window to function as our parks trustees. That would be the reason for their request.
Right. And I can appreciate that, but by going on record that our policy going forward is gonna be quarterly, I think it would be acceptable if they needed the second payment, much like we do with some other things. They could come and address that problem and request, say, their second payment paid ahead of schedule. But that'd have to be held, through a request to the board in person. At least that'd be my comment, But I can appreciate what you're saying, Doug, but we don't have, I don't think we've been provided with what they're gonna use? I mean, I know what they're gonna use the money with in general, but why did they need it all up front? You know what I mean?
Who's request?
Yeah, understand.
You know, and just,
Go ahead.
if I might, just
Yeah.
to speak to my motion, we have lots of other places that we make quarterly payments
Right.
out. I'm sure that our EMS agencies, you know, especially the smaller ones, could probably use all their money all at once.
Right, right.
If nothing else, they probably could save some interest on obligations they have.
Mhm.
So they most certainly could use, you know, that lump sum payment. But I don't think that we're treating parks any more differently than we are a plethora of other entities that we take in money and then distribute out to via contract.
Well, I mean, senior center, I mean, the list is pretty extensive.
The difference though is that the parks is county government.
And their appropriation is way less.
What's that?
Their appropriation is way less.
That's true. Well, okay. Well, there's a motion on the floor, and is there further discussion on the motion?
Can I read it, just because it caught me off guard, I wanna make sure I have it right. Motion to have the treasurer's office issue parks trustees appropriation payments quarterly, with a follow-up resolution at the next regular meeting. Is that sufficient?
And I would just add the word budgeted.
Budgeted appropriation payments.
Yes.
There you
Okay.
go. Any further discussion on the motion as read? If not, all. Okay.
Back on.
Yep, back on.
Switches.
Hey. All right.
I'm getting ready for a nap.
I'll bring you a blanket next time, Commissioner.
All right. All in favor of the motion on the floor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Passes 4-1.
If I may, Commissioner, while we're here,
Yep.
at our last meeting, Mr. Wertz was here and talked about the possibility of harvesting timber from the park's property. I did reach out to our legal counsel and got an answer regarding the concerns that I had, and I forwarded that to Mr. Wertz. And so he can proceed with that through the asset disposal policy that we have.
So the answer is yes, it is permitted, and the policy needs to be
So
followed.
we'll need to follow the asset disposal policy. And, you know,
So, if I may, the question that I thought of after the last meeting, because, so the asset disposal policy, that money rolls back into the general fund. Now, could we, and I'm asking a question, because I think we have the ability to do so, could we set up a special revenue fund that money rolled into, and that was designated for the parks?
we could, you know, I believe Commissioner Bensing had mentioned at the last meeting, even his thought of if we did harvest timber on the park property, that proceeds would maybe be contributed to the park fund that is at the community foundation, that the park receives annual interest appropriations from the park or from the community foundation for expenditure. Again, just a way to see not just a one-time influx in revenue there, but an opportunity for increased funding on an annual, ongoing basis.
Yeah, but the amount the parks get on an annual basis out of that money that's in there is very nominal.
And to that, you know, because I was the one who instituted that, okay, and that money that was put into that was from a similar sale at Parks to the federal government of a navigation easement in the space over the park. Now, being totally transparent, half of the dollars from that were placed into that trust, and then another portion of them were utilized by the parks, all right? And so, with that thought, we don't know what those proceeds are gonna be yet, but I would suggest that they do flow into the general fund, and then once we see what that amount is going to be, all right, then we can make a determination of what might be an immediate need, and what I would say is probably an immediate need is the roof on the community center needs to be replaced. And that, and I'm friendly to that idea because that creates a relatively long-term impact. And when we have windfalls such as this, that I think that they shouldn't be used to mow the grass.
Right.
Okay, they should be used for projects that have long-term impact. But I definitely am supportive of the idea of continuing to grow that fund, because the original intent, when I brought that idea many years ago to the Board of Commissioners, was to create a permanent funding source for our parks.
So what, if I'm hearing you correctly, we'd take a portion, do the roof, and the rest of it would go into.
That would be
the fund.
one potential,
Right, I'm just, yeah,
yes.
okay, go ahead, Rick.
That roof is 31 years old, so it is, it is the original roof to that building. It does need to be replaced, but again, we have no idea what that potential revenue would be from the sale of timber from that property, until the Parks trustees and Mr. Wertz go through that bid process to get bids on that timber.
So you've communicated with him, he's gonna move forward as far as
Yeah,
getting
proceed
bids.
with, right, with the asset disposal policy.
Okay, okay. All right. Anything else along those lines? All right, I believe, we bounced around a little bit, but I believe, Brad, we're up to you.
Okay. Trying to get my roadmap back here.
Your action item would be,
Yeah.
yep, thank you.
Get to the correct tab here. All right, so I have 26016. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, whereas on January 5th, 2026, Hillsdale County, known as the county, Hillsdale County Emergency Telephone Services Board, ETSB, and Hillsdale County Central Dispatch, HCCD, was informed by the Governmental Employees Labor Council Non-Supervisory Unit, GLEC, that effective January 1, 2026, the GELC disclaims, disavows, and relinquishes any further representation, interest, duty, and/or right under the Public Employment Relations Act or any other applicable law. Whereas the Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, as well as the Management and Personnel Committee, recommends the following. Dispatchers formerly covered by the GELC shall be placed at grade 4 on the Hillsdale County wage scale, with employees being placed at a step closest but not lower than their current rate of pay. Dispatchers formerly covered by the GELC will receive all non-wage benefits in accordance with county policies and policies there of HCCD. Employees will be allowed to keep any bank sick, vacation, personal, or comp time. This will be transferred over to a paid time off PTO bank. Thereafter, employees will earn PTO based on the county PTO schedule. Overtime and hours of work shall continue as is until sufficient time to allow HCCD leadership to work with dispatchers formerly covered by the GELC to develop policies that cover these items. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Honorable Board of Commissioners in the County of Hillsdale hereby instructs and authorizes the Hillsdale County Board of Commissioners Chairperson and the Hillsdale County Central Dispatch Director to implement wage and benefits consistent with the above, and I would move for adoption.
Support.
Thank you. And this is a follow-up. I believe that you had the addendums to this in regards to the classification and how they were placed at the grade 4. There actually had been some discussion previously when we were looking at contract negotiations of where those employees would place. And so this document or this language was prepared by our labor attorney so that we are making that transition from a bargaining unit to regular employees that would be covered by our county handbook. Central Dispatch would have their own policies and procedures separate from that handbook, but the guiding principle for those employees would be that for all of our other regular non-bargaining unit employees for the county.
Commissioner, I did not receive the grading schedule.
Did that? I thought that was sent out to everyone.
I thought it was too.
So it's not part of the packet.
Okay.
No, it wasn't.
But I believe Mr. Whitaker sent it out looking.
Yeah, I was thinking it was, but it would have been probably 2 weeks ago. Because we met with that group of employees.
Let's see. It was on the 20th. I'm looking at the distribution on that. Commissioner, my apologies. This was sent out to members of the bargaining unit. Copied to, this is Director Smith. And so I will, if you would like, I will forward that to you.
Well, I would, like to review that before taking up this resolution.
I do know that Thomas worked diligently with our finance director.
And again, but without saying that, and having the opportunity to review it, I cannot be in support of this resolution today.
Well, that creates a little bit of a problem.
Our Labor Council has encouraged us strongly to complete this as quickly as possible.
Because it leaves those employees kind of in a limbo of what they're getting paid or on what scale. There's more to it than. And I know I'm talking at least one of the emails I had with Derek was when we could start them on the pay schedule that started this Sunday, I believe. Right, Saturday, Sunday, whatever the date of the
Sunday.
new 2 weeks is.
You should have those.
But I do know that Thomas spent,
Dave, I did include you on that.
Thomas did spend quite a bit of time
Yes.
with Derek. So, I know personally, I'm comfortable with him. If you want to take a minute and glance at him since he sent them to you, I'm certainly open to that because we pretty much told them they'd be on the schedule.
I would,
Right?
yes, I would be happy to present a motion table. I will continue with my report. And then if we want to conclude the rest of our business and come back to this, but we do need to finish it today.
I will support.
Motion to table is non-debatable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. You can either continue with your
All right,
report.
I will continue with my report and then we can take up management personnel and come back to that. That was
That's
my
fine,
thing.
that's fine.
All right, so the ETSB board met on the 21st. Radio project is continuing well. Consumers Energy did notify Director Whitaker that they were going to be charging winter rates for running power to our sites. Our contractor Paragon for the towers, they advise that they will pick up any additional costs for that because we basically have already cut the check to consumers to run the utilities. And Paragon did not want any delays in that whatsoever, and so they said, we'll send us the invoice, we'll pick up the difference. Additionally, the FCC has requested a hearing regarding our southern tower, so that would be the power at the corner of Grass Lake and Camden Roads regarding radio wave infiltration into Ohio and Indiana, and possibly with the need to reconfigure with directional antennas so they did not cross the border. Interestingly, this was actually part of our engineering study and was discussed. It was part of our application, and suddenly somebody with the feds decided that it was an issue after they had issued our permits and licensing for the project. So Director Whitaker is working on that, and he will advise if there are any changes needed, and I will keep my fellow commissioners in the loop. We did move our mediation session with the dispatch soups to February the 13th. I believe that's still the same time, 10:30. So, but we did move up. I believe previously that was scheduled for the 19th, but there was a conflict with the mediators, and so we needed to move that. Commissioner Ingalls and I are meeting with the Branch County Administrator on February the 2nd regarding renewing our animal control contract with Branch County. And we hopefully will have a report back to you from that session at our first meeting in February. Hillsdale County Medical Director, Dr. Lance Wells, has resigned from his position effective February the 1st. Dr. Elizabeth Cook has been appointed as the new Medical Control Director. She is a former paramedic and has served previously in Pennsylvania as a Medical Control Director. With that change, the MCA meeting scheduled for the 5th has been postponed until later in February. We had some dates presented yesterday, and we were checking with everyone involved with that schedule, and we should have a date scheduled for the latter part of the month of February. County Security Committee has a meeting scheduled for the 6th here in this room at 9 a.m. Some news from around the district. The Woodbridge Township Fire Department held an ice rescue class January 17th in partnership with Wright Waldron Fire Department. Both departments are now certified in ice rescue and are in the process of securing the appropriate equipment for that. And so that is an excellent asset to have in the southern part of the county. I know Montgomery has been certified in that for a while, and it is good to have another department that is able to do those kinds of rescues. Also, Montgomery Fire Department hosted, with the assistance from Camden and Woodbridge Fire, a training day for the local Amish communities in the southern portion of the county. They had over 200 members of those communities in attendance, and they learned CPR, stop the bleed, and fire safety. And just a reminder that we are still taking registrations for mental health first aid on February the 17th. Did send out confirmation emails from everyone that I am aware of currently that has said that they want to take that class. I have heard from at least one of my fellow commissioners that they are not, and one that has, and I will be attending as well. But if the other two have any interest in doing that, please get me an email on that so I can forward your contact information to the person from Lifeways who is doing that for us. And that concludes my report, unless there are questions.
What was the date again, Brad, on that? 17th,
Tuesday.
17th of February?
17th of February, yes.
Thank you.
8:30 to 5.
Yeah.
Janet's cooking lunch. You pull out that working professional phone. You got Hungry Howie's, Domino's.
We don't have Jimmy John's. Okay. Any questions for Dan? All right. Did anybody need a minute to continue reviewing, or you want me to jump into my report?
I'm still reviewing.
You okay with me jumping them down the line? All right. I have two action items, 26, 18.
And 19.
Yep. And I'll start with 18. Let me get it a little bigger so I can see it. Whereas on January 5th, 2026, Hillsdale County Emergency Telephone Service Road, I just about, that's the wrong one, that's 16. That don't work. Give me 18. Thank you, Brad. I knew something didn't look right. I had it open and then we switched it. Okay. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, Resolution 26-018, whereas the opioid committee met on January 14th, 2026 and recommends the expenditure of $27,288 from the opioid settlement funds to be awarded to the Branch Hillsdale St. Joseph Community Health Agency for the purpose of planning and implementing the 2026 Elephant in the Room opioid use stigma and harm reduction campaign event. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hillsdale County Board of Commissioners authorize the expenditure of $27,288 from the opioid settlement funds to be awarded to Branch Hillsdale St. Joseph Community Health Agency for the aforementioned purpose. This is respectfully submitted, Mark Wiley, Chair. Move for adoption.
Support.
Thank you. Should be in your packet, there was a accompanying project proposal. I think it's self-explanatory unless anyone's got a question.
Have we, from the one that was held in 25, have we received anything as follow-up in regards to that on outcomes?
She did. Brett, do you remember how Chris reported some feedback that she'd gotten?
Yeah, and she has actually brought that here as well.
Yeah, and I don't remember, she handed it out to us, but I mean, all the comments were positive. And there were some of her comment sheets that actually wanted her to do the event again. So I didn't bring those with me. But that was just in printed format. She didn't email that to me, otherwise I'd be happy to forward it to you. But she,
No, I can look, if she handed it out, I can have it.
I don't recall there being any negative comments out of that program. And I think you attended, if
I
I
did.
recall correctly.
Both Commissioner Collins was there as well.
Right, right. So. So anyways, is there any questions or further discussion on 26-018? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Leininger,
Yeah,
Commissioner Ingles,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Benzing.
Yes.
Pass 5-0, I believe.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, 26. Let me go ahead right here. 26-019. To the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we authorize the following individual to be appointed to the Hillsdale County Opioid Settlement Funds Committee to fill the position of Substance Abuse Recovery Representative. Mara Maynard, first appointed 11/12/24, term of appointment 2-year term expiring 12/31/27. Respectfully submitted for adoption, Mark Wiley.
I'll support that.
Thank you.
And to that, I'm just, and the clerk can correct me on this language, but I was just wondering, should the following year should be reappointed rather than just appointed, because they were previously serving in that position, it's not a new position. I know it's semantics, but
Yeah, I can have that.
living with the grammar
Yep.
police.
I'm good with that.
Okay. I just think it just provides clarity that this is a reappointment.
Uh,
But it's this person's
Right, I understand that.
The committee's made up basically from how Amy has, recommended us, and this position fits. The other position has been, well, it's listed as vacant currently, but Melissa, you remember her last name, Brent? Melissa's last name? I can't think of it right now. But she's a recovery, she kind of fits that
Miles,
same
what's
category.
Miles?
Yes, yes. And we've got to get her to fill out so she can be, and we'll have the same language of reappointment. But she is willing to do it, it's just haven't gotten her app in front of the personnel committee yet. So, so is there any further questions on resolution 26-019? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner Ingles,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes?
Commissioner Benzing,
Yes.
Commissioner Laniger.
Yes.
Passes 5-0, thank you. And I'll get that other one hopefully by our next meeting, and, since it's a reappointment, if no one's got any objection, if we can get it put together, we'll put it in consent. Okay. Very good.
Unless we had any other applicants, that would be my only caveat.
Exactly, exactly, and it is posted from what, talking to the clerk on that, as is some other vacancies on the webpage, so. I will be attending the winter CMHA conference in Kalamazoo next Tuesday. It's kind of like the MAC conference, only this is for mental health. And the first day, much like MAC, is administrative. And the third day is usually short. So I usually go to the second day, which is Tuesday next week. And it's up there in Kalamazoo at the Radisson Conference Center. Mary Beth's retirement party is this Thursday in the Pine Room, 5:30 till, I didn't see an end date, so I guess as long as there's people there, it's open to the public, and you're all invited, so. Doesn't mean you have to stay all, you can come say good wishes, and anyways. And Lifeway's board meeting was held last week in Hillsdale. Brad was able to attend, I think we had a couple other people in the audience. Pardon me?
Employees, I was the only member of the public there.
Yep, yep. I guess of note, the new chair of officers starting in February is I will be taking over as chair. Ray Snell from Jackson will be the vice chair. Kathy Schmidt from Hillsdale will be the board treasurer. And Christine Carlson, thank you, Shannon, I truly. She will be the new board secretary, and she is from the Jackson area. So it's historically alternated, and so we're able to keep the alternation the same as, that's not necessarily in our rules, but that's the way historically it's been done, so. And I guess I had one or two meetings get canceled, such as Cameron Village because of the weather. But, and as indicated previously, Doug and I have had a couple meetings with this in favor of taking up, the motion is remove it from the table, 26-016. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is back on the floor for consideration. Please proceed.
If I may, Commissioner, I have some concerns with the way that these positions were classified in the schedule. Starting out, it's deemed that it's an A position, which is a high school diploma or equivalent. And if you look at all of the other classifications that we have that are in that, none of those A's are above a step or a grade 3 on our classification schedule. That's because when you go across all of those other grading factors, many of those have an A column that you're supposed to get the point factor from in grading it. And in doing this factor, Director Whitaker pulled factors from the B or the C column that are above the A classification in each of those columns. And so I cannot support them being classified as a grade 4 based on what I'm seeing in that classification report.
So your intent would be to pay them less?
That would be a grade 3. They would still be placed at a wage above their current wage rate of pay. But again, looking at that and the high school diploma or equivalent is the lowest classification we have on factor 1 and less than 2 years of experience. Is that beginning? And I don't see how we can get them almost to the top end of a grade 4 in that rating at that.
You have one employee out there that will be at step 9 to stay at equal to or greater than his current pay.
At a grade 3?
No, I agree. And your thoughts aside from that, the potential, number one, for growth, the level, it really takes 6 months from time of hire if they have not previously been a dispatcher before they are actually able to work in the dispatch room. So their first 6 months so in other words, at the grade 4, step 1, they really, unless they have previous experience, they are not added to the pool of dispatchers. The other thing is that we don't want to find ourselves in the same position that we have been with some other positions where they classify at a fairly high step at a lower grade, and we have, in a very short period of time, a reclassification request because we have all the employees out there have reached the top of the pay scale.
But that's the point of the pay scale, is to reach the top.
Well,
The number of years, with the state of Michigan, I worked 5 years, and we were done with raises, except for what they gave you in cost of living. So this stuff of, oh, I'm at step 9 or step 10, and there's no more raises for me, we still are gonna give cost of living raises.
Right.
So that is, to me, that is a moot point. I mean, we could do this over 5 years, and at 5 years, you're at your max pay, and
but the intent of the steps, Commissioner, just since you weren't part of this body when we did the.
I've been through
Right,
2 of them.
Right, but the point of them was that we were underpaying our employees in relation to comps, and so therefore, we couldn't bring them up to that in one giant leap, we couldn't bring them up in 5 leaps. So we brought them up in 9 leaps with the idea that inflation would eat away any of that effort that we made to get them where they needed to be, so that we would do everything possible to, in addition to that step increase, give a cost of living increase. So in reality, this schedule was intended to not reward years of service. The schedule was intended to get our employees to the point where they needed to be in relation to comparable units of government that were part of our wage study.
See, now the wage studies I went through one in Litchfield, I was on the city council, I went through one in Jonesville as an employee. And they all, you got them, and yes, if you had 5 years in, no, you didn't move up to grade 5 because the city could not afford it. So they moved you up slowly and tried to get you to that point. But I guess, where was the mix-up made when they did this wage study with the 911 employees?
They weren't part of it because they were bargaining unit.
Yeah, with the dissolving of the union, we're gonna slide them over and they become part of the county family, so to speak, as far as pay scale. Previously, they were with whatever was in the union contract.
So they should just fall into whatever our county
But,
contract is.
but what we're doing is what was done here is they were graded to slot them into the wage schedule.
Right.
And I have an issue with how that grading was done.
Well, the only comment I can make is I know that our finance director and Thomas Whitaker spent several hours or more working on this collectively. And I, for one, have the utmost faith in our finance director. So, I'm in favor of putting them where they're at, because like what I just said, so. Doug, you have a comment?
I have a question for Commissioner Leininger. The point grade parameters, 1101 to 1250, the total points that seem to be brought here is 1228, which fits into that. Well, if you follow the A schedule, as you mentioned, by education, what points do we come up with?
We would be in a grade 3, and I didn't go through and
Yeah.
grade them all, but it would be a grade 3, it would be a grade 3 schedule.
But we don't know the points.
I didn't go through and do the points myself, no, I just went through and just compared to, you know, some of those, and, you know, we're pulling
From B and C.
scores, yeah,
Yeah. I'm hearing you, I just don't know what that total point would be.
yeah. But one of the pages is not included, the third category is not, the point schedule is not included in this email. I can't find the wage schedule or the compensation classification study for Mr. Dotley online.
Yeah.
To get that page. If you look at what was included in the email,
Right, I am.
factor, I believe factor 3 is not there. And that's the judgment factor.
Right, yep.
No, factor 2 says judgment, but
Yeah, 3 we don't know.
So Brad and I met with these employees on the evening of the 15th. And the pay scale was passed out to them. They were showed where they were gonna be at. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we told them that on the next pay schedule, which would be, like I said, starting Sunday, 2 days ago, that they would be on the pay scale at the grade and step indicated.
Did you say
Am I
what step?
recalling that correctly?
The step would be, I mean, breaks down depending on where they are
Do
currently.
we know?
where the-
As Brad indicated, one of them's at a step 9.
I couldn't remember what he said.
Yeah, and then there's, I think the other ones were anywhere between 2 and 5, if I remember at 5. I think 5 was the other highest one, the rest of them.
Right. And there's one employee that's a relatively new employee, and because of the way that their contract was structured as a training employee, that she would actually receive probably the greatest increase in pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the step 1, grade
Right.
4, step 1 is still a fairly significant hourly rate increase for her.
Right. Yeah, because Thomas and Derek worked to make sure that they were no less than what they were at or above their current rate of pay. Is that
Correct.
The next step above, not 2 or 3 steps
Right.
above.
Right, yeah.
The closest
Yeah,
Yeah.
step above to their current.
I mean, some of them, when, if I remember right, I don't have any of that paperwork with me, but if I remember right, there was some that were like 6 cents, okay?
Understood, I
Yeah.
get it.
You know, it varied, but they were put in as close as possible.
Thank you, that answers my questions.
Thank you. And I guess collectively, you know, we'll apologize, we thought those were sent to everybody, but,
Yeah.
you know, you have them now, but,
And again, even with them now, I cannot support it at a grade 4. When every one of our other employees that's classified, that starts with a high school or equivalent degree, the highest they are is a grade 3.
And to that, Commissioner, I would add, it does say or specialized training, and you are required to be certified as a dispatcher, so therefore, I would say that is specialized training.
I would concur. Any further discussion on the resolution on the floor? Going once? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Leininger,
No,
Commissioner Ingles.
Yes.
Passes 4 to 1.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. All right. We are up to public comment.
Yeah,
We got the video back on just for you, Bob.
I was hoping that would be back on there. Thank you, Brad.
I haven't seen you in a while, Bob.
No, there's, well, it's cold.
It is.
No, and right now, I need to ask if you would, see about, calling the sheriff to come here.
Heating things up.
Well, let's just say that I need to get arrested. My ex-wife is in town and she's pretty mean, so. Just give me a- So first off, I wanted to ask, and again, I've watched Abe in several places, and I hope you can make a comment afterwards, about the, hard, decision on all the townships to go on board with signing on. And since we've had a lot of problems with, in the past, and we're in negotiation of who is running the heart, coming from whatever sources, it just seems not because of your, early, voting process. And, I don't see that being that. I wanna see that the problem we had before with these machines doesn't mean that the county could put their own analytical ways into the machines and decide what the HARP company, since we are contracted through, just undesirable to have it go that way. Other than that, thank you guys, and be careful out there.
All right, stay warm, Bob. Anyone else wish to address the board? All right, thank you everyone for attending. Additional business, Brent?
I have none.
Kevin?
None.
Doug?
None today.
Brad?
I wanted to thank Commissioner Collins for helping with getting the planning commission appointment for economic development. So thank you very much, Commissioner. I do appreciate your efforts on that. As Mark noted, I was at the legislative board meeting, was the only member of the public in attendance. They are here once a quarter, and we spend a bunch of money for community mental health, and so, you know, I would encourage all of you, I know I've seen Commissioner Ingles here in the past, so I would encourage all of you, at least once or twice, to make the short drive rather than the longer drive to Jackson. So, you might even get a snack out of the deal, so board members defend those. And the last thing I have, Commissioner Wiley, you might be interested in this, or any of my other fellow commissioners that are interested in military history. Tonight there will be a program at Hillsdale College, speaker at 8 o'clock from the Center for Military History, and those are usually pretty good. My wife and I will be in attendance, so I look forward to being there. And if you don't have anything on your dance card for this evening and you're willing to brave the snow in the dark, probably will be a good thing, and that'll be at the Placerville Auditorium next to the Searle Center.
So this squall should move through in the next 30 minutes, and that's all it is, a narrow squall.
You really need to thank the city manager, Ben.
Thank you.
I got with her and she.
Surround yourself with good people,
got that
Commissioner, and
taken
you'll look
care
great.
of.
Thank you.
All right, I don't really have anything other than go green.
Go white.
We stand adjourned.